he gave me the ointment, but all it really did was make the rash bigger. Hello, I'm Chris Mealy.
And I'm Emma Hoyla.
And welcome to MC Podcast. And that's our theme song. Once again, I'm Chris Mealy.
And I'm Emma Hoyla.
And this is our brand new podcast, MC Podcast, where we talk about movies.
Movies.
We love movies. We certainly do. On today's episode of MC Podcast, we'll be talking about Hector and the Pursuit of Happiness. A British film starring Simon Pegg, directed by the guy that directed Hannah Montana the movie, and also starring other people who have roles and characters.
That are British.
That are British roles and characters.
Yes.
Everything's so British. Yes. Well, let's see what the plot of this film is. A psychiatrist searches the globe to find the secret of happiness. Wow. So... let's discuss it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's discuss. Emma, give me your view on the film.
Like my plot summary. What I thought it was.
Well, this plot summary I found on IMDb is very vague, so maybe you could explain
I can elaborate a little bit. Okay.
Listener.
So Hector, played by Simon Pegg, is a psychiatrist who comes to the realization that his life is very dull and boring, and he's just same. Dull, boring, everyday routine, and he feels like he's not helping his patients enough, and he feels like he doesn't have the insight, or he feels like he's lying to them because he can't actually help them become happy because he's not happy himself. And so he goes on the search for happiness, and first he goes to China, right?
Yeah, China.
China, and then...
Africa,
and then Los Angeles? I think that was
it. Yeah, that's right.
Los Angeles, and then back home wherever in England he was living. So in China, what he found?
In China, he basically on the plane ride there he meets a businessman.
A businessman. Was he flying like first class? Not first class.
He moved to first class after something happened. I don't remember.
Me neither.
But I just watched it today. I don't remember.
Wasn't that important?
It wasn't that important. He moves next to this businessman whom he annoys, he annoys the guy. But then he borrows a pen from him. He borrows a pen.
Yeah, to write in his journal, which he found in his suitcase because before he left, his girlfriend snuck a little journal in there and told him to, write everything he finds out.
This is important because the pen thing will come into play later in the film because pens are important plot devices in this movie. So he uses the pen, and then I guess he forgets to give him back the pen, and the pen apparently, as the rich guy says, is more expensive than his car. So it's like, okay, I gotta give this pen back to this guy. He's like, when they get to the point, he's like, you forgot your pen. And then something happens, and then they go around China together.
Yeah,
do things.
Yeah, so Simon Hector doesn't really have a place to stay, or he doesn't really know where he's going. So this businessman, who we assume travels to China a lot, he is the kind of man that when he goes away for business, he goes to the clubs and has $1,000 meals and all this kind of stuff, and he kind of takes Hector along with him, just being, a nice person.
Yeah, and in the movie, okay, so one part we kind of skipped, we forgot to say, the important part of the movie is that Hector is, the reason why he's going around looking for happiness is because he himself is not happy, and, he wants to know if he's truly happy, and he wants to know
how he can,
since he's a psychiatrist, his
just like how he wants to know how he can help his
the
patients.
People he's there
helping
his patients. He wants to know why they're not happy, so that maybe he can give him some insight because it's become a bore for him, and he has to listen. Everyone sounds the same basically, and
he feels like a fraud because he can't help his.
In the end, he doesn't understand the first world problems of these people. So he goes journeying to China at first. He goes on vacation. So the businessman, everybody he meets represents some sort of different version of happiness, really.
Yeah.
Gives them some new ideal.
In China, it's like material kind of.
Yeah, the businessman, money equals happiness for him.
Yeah.
So more money, the happier he is. basically. Money, it's the age-old, saying money can't buy you happiness. He basically saying it can buy you happiness.
It just, depends on the person.
Yeah. And that leads to him in a club where he meets a woman.
Nice little, a pretty Chinese woman.
Pretty Chinese woman. And remember, Simon Pegg, he has a girlfriend. Hector has a girlfriend. So back in England.
Yeah, I guess. England.
Yeah,
We're
England.
assuming.
And then she takes her back to, well, she takes him back to her room.
And this fancy hotel that his rich friend let him stay in with him.
Yeah, and then they don't do anything, but they lay in bed and she's naked. So, and then he's hitting, and the idea she gives him is that you can love more than one person, more than love woman
at
which
a time.
is a little weird. I thought
some people think that
mixed. I think that gave me kind of mixed messages about the film is trying to say.
Yeah,
there it's like
because so far at this point it was only
in a way it's weird supporting adultery in a way.
Yeah,
that was a little iffy. I had some issues with that, but so then he moves on. Well, then what happens is
he finds out that this woman that he met was essentially
a prostitute, basically, and then so she gets taken away, and then he's sad, and he realizes he got to be sad to be happy,
and he also realizes, I think one of the ones was happiness is not knowing the whole story, which I thought was a really true
ignorance
thing.
is bliss.
Yeah.
See, that's one thing I like about this movie is that some of the messages it has
there was a truth to each message.
There is a truth. It's not too overbearing. I can compare this movie to Eat, Pray, Love or The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, but I thought I actually liked this movie more than those because I didn't. Those movies.
This was more like a real.
Yeah, I'd say this less in your face than those movies.
I think because it was just a. I mean, I could talk about that later. So after he goes to the city town of China, he goes up to the mountains, right?
Yeah, where
he
talks
to monks.
He meets the monks, and this is an important part of any movie like this, where they meet the monks, and the monks are I don't really remember what message the monks really give him. It's just kind of
Just because, remember when there was one part when he was spending time with the monks, and all of a sudden they had this crazy windstorm and all these flags that they had outside their hut or home or whatever it was, they were all blowing around. It was all these pretty colors, and the monks were so they're just they were so captured by the beauty of just the nature and all this kind of stuff that was around them. And then Simon Pegg, Hector, he just one of the things he got out was just that was the one thing in China that wasn't the material kind of happiness that the other things were showing.
And then I remember, for some reason I don't remember that part too well, but I do remember they were walking down the hill and he finds out the monks use Skype. So,
they're modern.
So then he uses Skype, and in those scenes where he talks to his girlfriend on Skype, Agnes, it's kind of implied a bit that there's something going on.
No, his girlfriend was Claire. Agnes was the other woman.
Wait, which one's Agnes?
Agnes was the pregnant mom.
Oh, okay. I wasn't I thought. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. When in the movie, his girlfriend Clara finds, who's played by Rosamund Pike, who was in Gone Girl, and Simon Pegg and Rosamund Pike previously worked together in The World's End.
Yeah.
So they already have
that chemistry.
That chemistry going on, but the thing about that is when she was looking at the picture, I actually thought it was her. And I don't know. So
they're both blonde.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't paying attention too well. Don't know why. Some details in movies pass me by. Plot details.
Yeah.
But whatever. In the end, it was okay. I get it now. But what were we saying?
So after the monks.
Yes.
He travels to Africa.
He goes to Africa. Well, he goes to the airport, and the lady's you're gonna get the worst flight. The
worst crappy little airplane.
Sure.
It's rickety little thing in the air.
Rickety plane. And then when he's on the plane, it shows the outside of the plane, and it's a model plane.
It's they're
getting, it's quirky.
That, not cartoon, but how little kids, how they do that scrapbook looking.
Yeah, it was Wes Anderson-esque.
was like cartoony.
Kind of. There's a lot of moments like that in this movie with his notebook, cartoony, which it threw me off a bit because this movie's rated R and it's not a family movie, and they swear and stuff.
Yeah, but
so it kind of.
I think that like the whole
tone of the movie,
the cartoon aspect, and it was more like he had like the childish emotions, and
I think it's implied with the symbolism where it shows him as a child that he's kind of shallow a bit.
Yeah.
But he's also got a childlike sense of adventure in him that's pushing him along, which I thought's interesting because, like, in movies like Indiana Jones and adventure movies, and Tintin is referenced to, which he was in.
He was in Tintin.
The animated Tintin movie. You know, there's a large sense of adventure, which I do like adventure movies.
I liked it in this movie. I thought it was.
I thought yes, I like adventure movies, and when even if like I don't like the movie itself, I'll probably still enjoy like him climbing mountains, going on an adventure. The overall feel of it, puts me in a very adventure mood because Indiana Jones was a movie I loved. And I still love as a kid. As a kid, that movie blew my mind. So,
all right. So back to Africa. He's
in Africa.
Traveling on this little itty bitty plane to Africa.
Now, this is the part of the movie that I wasn't on board with. Wasn't completely on board with.
I thought this part was kind of like scary. Honestly, whole Africa.
Well, okay. Well, this is what happens. He's in Africa. He meets an old friend of his who's helping with Africa, like in a
clinic or
he's working
hospital.
in a clinic.
He's like a volunteer, nonprofit kind of guy.
And he shows, him the ropes of basically living in Africa. And it's shown in like a scene where they're doing surgery, and there are lions right nearby, and no one does anything about it because it's like,
a normal thing
everyday thing in Africa. And then he goes to a bar in his hotel where he meets
Diego
something, who's played by the guy who played by Leon the Professional, basically the movie. It's a movie he's in. What's his name? Jean
something. It's like French.
Him. He's a good actor, but he's in this. I don't know why I don't remember his name. I'll look it up. So he's like a drug lord.
Yeah, pretty much. He kind of like runs the town in the area, and Hector runs into him in this bar, and Jean
Reno 911 basically. So sorry, I didn't mean to make that pun up. Sorry, but continue.
They pretty much like have this conversation, and Hector is asking him questions about if he's happy and his happiness and what makes him happy, and of course, someone's going to think it's strange that a stranger is asking this question. So he starts to get a little suspicious. The drug lord starts to get a little suspicious of Hector. And he's, talking to him like, what do you think you're doing? Or what are you trying to get out of this? Or what do you get for it? And Hector is just like, he's trying to tell everyone that he's honestly just looking for what happiness is, and he was just asking everyone. He honestly cared about the research of happiness, and so they kind of like befriend each other because he like helps out his wife, right? Because he's a psychiatrist, so he has some like medical experience. He helps out his wife who is sick, and they become friends. And then that night or a couple days later, whatever, he gets kidnapped.
Well, okay. Well, what this is where it threw me off with Hector. He's riding in a taxi. And then the taxi gets stolen by two guys.
Like hijacked.
Hijacked, basically. Yeah. Hijacked. And then they drive off, and they find him back in the back of the taxi. And then they kidnap him. And it's really kind of... I know Africa, extreme place, basically.
Like violence.
But out of place in this movie. And that's how I felt.
Yeah.
The way they handled it was just very... light when he's like shoving an AK-47 in his face and he's like yelling at him, and Hector's getting beat up. It's kind of like it's a little weird.
I thought it was
the scene
was out of place of the movie.
And then he asks him what gets him out of it basically what happens is Hector asks him what makes him happy.
The
And
people
then-
who kidnapped him, they asked.
And then he
asked
says
him what makes him happy.
he says that Diego. He shows him the pen that he borrowed. See, pen. Important plot device here. Pen shows him the pen that Diego gave him earlier.
the drug lord
The
that
drug
was his
lord.
friend.
So then it gets him out of it, and they throw him on the side of the road with a bag over his head.
So
But
pretty much he gets kidnapped,
Yeah.
starved,
I
beaten
figured,
up.
like, what if they held him hostage and used it for money? I mean, that would take the movie in a different direction.
Yeah.
But, they could have. But that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I
so
just
then,
thought this was a weird.
and then what happens next is even weirder. Like okay, we didn't mention this. He meets this lady on the plane when he's going to Africa, and she gives him a reason for happiness. I don't remember what it is. You probably remember.
Oh, it was like wasn't it that they could the sweet potato stew was like
sweet potato stew, but that happens later.
Yeah, but so she like when he was on the plane to Africa, he was sitting next to a woman who was talking about how like I think her family gives her happiness.
She's
and stuff.
going to see her family.
And she pretty much like gives him the address to her house and says, if you ever have any free time, like stop by. And wasn't it after he got kidnapped? That's where he like ran to was like her house or their neighborhood or something.
Yeah.
And then they like celebrate together.
Yeah. Oh, that's what happens before he's kidnapped. Is he goes to the house, has the sweet potato stew.
Yeah,
and then that's the reason for happiness is a sweet potato stew. It's number like 13 or something. So
and that's when he,
that's when he gets in taxi,
gets a couple of drinks,
and then he gets released,
taxi.
and then he's running back, and he's like, "Yeah, woo! I was kidnapped. That was fun."
Yeah, and
even though it wasn't at all.
But it was the freedom was that freedom is happiness.
But then they have like a celebration, like, "Yeah, you've been freed."
Yeah, I don't know how they knew what happened.
That was a little weird because like. That type of thing happens a lot in Africa.
And I don't think they celebrate.
I don't know if they would necessarily celebrate the random stranger getting released.
From a drug lord kidnapping him. That's kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole Africa part was like kind of like out of place and kind of strange, but I mean it does show the reality of some things happening in Africa, but then again it also shows like it was kind of like unrealistic in a certain way.
It's the movie. I wouldn't say this movie is necessarily 100% realism.
No.
It's definitely it's a light
it's more the theme.
It's a light film, sort of frothy in a way. It's just a light, fun movie, So then this Africa thing happens, and it treats it the theme like the movie treats it the same way it treats any other scene in the movie, and it treats it just like any other scene, and it just feels a little strange and off-putting, and it doesn't feel right thematically. Mm-hmm. It should have been a little bit more intense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a little emotional. I got a little teary-eyed when he was dying in the
he has to
cell.
For it to be a full adventure, he has to go through bad times.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think he's gone through bad times, like with the prostitute. I think that was he thinks he has a new love, and it turns out she's just a prostitute.
But I think
that's putting him through a sad, sort of emotional state.
But that's like a different extreme. Like, he was a psychiatrist with an everyday, normal, boring life, never did anything, went anywhere, and then all of a sudden he's pretty much starving in a concrete cell in Africa.
Yeah. He has to go for it to be a full life-changing adventure. He has to go with the full range. So I guess it makes sense. But they didn't have to make it something so.
It could have been something else.
Like they didn't even. Did he have to go to Africa? They could have made some. The filmmakers and Simon Pegg. He probably wanted to go to Africa. I mean, let's be honest. The reason why they went to China, then Africa, then L.A. That's a random course to go. But I'm guessing the reason they went all these places because they wanted to go there. Even though L.A. I mean, they've.
But I mean, it was a foreign film.
It's Canadian actually. Like, it was a Canadian film company, I think.
Oh.
I think.
I thought they won like a Canadian out of Canadian Film Awards or something. It was in.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like Canadian.
It's not it's obviously not 100% Canadian. It's all nationality. So it's from all over the place.
All over the world.
Yeah, but So then after Africa, what happens is, why does he go?
He goes to Africa, but then he flies to LA to meet up with an old friend of his.
No, wait. Before he goes to LA, he gets or in LA he does. He gets a call from the drug lord saying that Hector made his life better. I guess.
Oh,
Hector's changing lives all over the place.
Yeah, when he gets to LA, he gets a call from his drug lord friend saying that his wife that he helped out and gave medical advice to is doing so much better, and that he made this drug lord, he made his life much happier because now his wife is healthier and happier as well. So as well as him like finding different reasons for happiness, he's making some other people, giving some other people happiness as well.
Yeah. And the whole point is for him to find a reason why people are happy, different reasons why, so he can get a full idea as to why, you know, how to make people happy, how to be happy, you know. And they're very human, you know, like themes.
Yeah. I mean, everyone
can relate. It's not too deep, I wouldn't say. It's like
it's not mind blowing
philosophy, you know, that'll like change your life forever.
Definitely worth watching, though. I would say.
Wait. No, not we're not on the final verdict yet.
Oh,
We're
no,
not
I was
done.
just saying that.
Okay, yeah. L.A. He goes to L.A.
He meets up with an old, I don't know if it was like a college or young.
Yeah.
20s kind of girlfriend.
His. And then it kind of gets dramatic with like near the end.
Yeah.
With like,
she's also a psychiatrist, right? And he was going there hoping that maybe going there they could either, you know, even though he had a girlfriend back home, maybe they could get back together. Or if he could see what could have been or what they could be together. But she's actually married and pregnant with 3 kids.
Look, this is where I think is another an issue I had with the movie was there's 20 minutes left in the movie. He's in L.A. And his girlfriend back in England thinks he's cheating on her. So that's when the drama kicks in, and I think it's too late for them to become like dramatic in a sense. Yeah. They should have had it earlier on.
There wasn't like a big climax in the movie. I didn't think.
Yeah, another issue is it has a very loose plot.
I feel like it was just a really long rising action, and I can't even put my finger on where the climax of the movie was, where it was like, oh wow, oh my god.
Really, next to no plot, but I think, and then she's like threatening to leave him, and then the way it ends is he's hooked to a brain scanner, and basically it's a little.
I mean, that's pretty much how it happens.
It's a little
out of
weird,
nowhere.
And he gets a call from her saying she's gonna leave him, and it makes him sad, and then he going through all these ranges of emotions.
Well, how he got there was the old girlfriend that he met up with was also like a psychologist, and they were going, or maybe she's a professor or something of psychology, but they were going to sit in on a lecture about for this guy who wrote a book about how to be happy and happiness and stuff. And after they sat in through this lecture, this guy took them back to his office where he did all these tests on them to find out what makes them happy. Like he did like brain tests and scans and all this kind of stuff. So then they put the thing on Hector, and this is after all of his journey. This is the end of the movie, after he's experienced all of these things and found out what makes other people happy. I mean, after that, then he it's his turn to show like all of the emotion. That's when it all kind of comes out.
Yeah. At first he's having like these really shallow sort of feelings. Like you can tell they're like, he's like, these are feelings children have.
That's what everyone was
But then he gets the call, and he's like a full range of emotions, and his brain's like exploding basically with emotion. And then he realized, and he's crying, and I thought Simon Pegg really pulled it off the crying.
I mean, it almost made me cry. I was almost there. So
there was a lot of crying at the end of this movie, but Simon Pegg, then he's like, get me on the next flight. And then he flies home
to be with his girlfriend.
Yeah, and then it shows a montage, and he's enjoying life with psychiatry.
So he found his happiness,
he enjoys his small little life. Yeah,
and he's able to help his patients. And then
they get married. But the thing, there's two symbolic things in this movie. I mentioned the child thing earlier. There's like, it's kind of obvious, like he's, he himself is not fully developed.
Like emotionally developed.
Yeah, emotionally. Like
he doesn't listen to his,
he doesn't understand his patients because he himself doesn't really, have a full range of emotions.
I mean, yeah, so
he's not mature enough to understand. And then another symbol in this movie is a dog. But
I didn't get that dog one though.
Why the dog this is how I see it, is his sense of adventure. It's okay. This is a dog he had when he was a kid, and his sense of adventure. That's basically the dog.
Yeah.
Because in like Tintin, he has a dog, and I think in old classic adventure movies and media and comics, there's always a dog that comes along for the adventure, and I think that's what it
man's best friend
recognized, and maybe like childhood. Like in the beginning, he has a dream where he loses the dog, and the dog falls out of the plane. And maybe that was him losing a part of himself, kind of a nightmare, and then he gets attacked by a guy from behind. It was a little weird way to open your movie, but
I mean, I thought it was a good movie, and I definitely think it was.
You give your So Emma, what's your final verdict?
I would say, out of 10 stars, I would probably give it an 8. Probably, I mean, I wouldn't give it a 10 because it was definitely, there were some non-realistic things. I mean, obviously not all movies are realistic, but for this kind of movie, traveling to the different countries and stuff, I thought there'd be more of that realistic connections and communications with people, but it was just kind of, I mean, not everyone would experience that same thing.
Let's see. My final verdict is Simon Pegg is... he's very charming. I really like Simon Pegg.
I thought he was perfect for this character.
Yeah. It's good to see him in a movie.
It was different than the other characters that he usually plays.
He's a fun guy. I thought it was better than like Eat, Pray, Love or Walter Mitty.
Like other movies that have that adventure, happiness, finding yourself kind of theme.
There were scenes where I had fun with it, but I had more issues with it than I had more cons than pros, like the lack of plot, the weird sort of tonal issues with Africa and him getting kidnapped. I thought it was a bit, some obvious stuff, and a bit. Sometimes it could be a bit overly sentimental and it turns me off a bit. So I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10.
Oh, I mean, I thought it was a really good feel-good movie, and if you're not...
It is feel-good. And I'm fine with feel-good.
It's an easy movie to watch.
I'm fine, like, it's a movie, if you watch it, it's like, I didn't walk out insulted or offended. I wasn't, like, angry. I just felt like,
I mean, it ended fine. I
enjoyed it for what it was.
Things worked out.
But my rating would be a 5 out of 10. And that's
so what is that on average?
Final.
6.5?
In the middle. In the middle. 5 out of 10 may sound harsh, but it's roughly in the middle for me. That'd be me giving like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Worth watching. I'd say it's worth watching.
I would give it a watch.
I wouldn't watch if you're gonna pick between this Eat, Pray, Love or the Sweet Life of Walter Mitty. I'd say watch this.
I would too. Yes.
Yeah. Don't waste your time with the other ones. Okay, let's move on to the next movie. This movie is Kingsman, The Secret Service. For this one, we have a special guest because Emma didn't see it. Introduce yourself, special guest.
Hello, I am Andrew. I'm the special guest.
Andrew Wallace, to be exact. He's here so we can discuss this movie properly, and Emma can ask questions, right, Emma?
Because I would like to know more about this movie, actually.
Yes, she would. So here's the summary for Kingsman. A spy organization recruits an unrefined but promising street kid into the agency's ultra-competitive training program just as a global threat emerges from a twisted tech genius. Wow, Ooh. Sounds exciting. Because I saw it, and I know how it goes.
So I thought it was just like the CIA in England.
Well,
kind
it's
of movie.
It's like their own agency. It's the Kingsman, the Secret Service.
So that's the name of their agency. Is
Yes,
Kingsman.
they're
Okay.
the Kingsman, the Secret Service.
Got it.
That's their agency, and they're sticking to it.
It's also a clothing line in the.
It's a tailor shop, and
it's
that's
the
where,
alias.
That's basically where the Kingsmen reside. And it's headed by Michael Caine, and then there's Colin Firth, and he's an agent, and he's really cool, and they beat up guys. So basically what the movie's about is there's this kid, he's kind of a degenerate, kind of like an attack the block type kid. He's a buster, alright? He's English, and hey, it's English night. We're talking, first we got Simon Pegg, and now we have Attack the Block kid who talks funny. But this time he talks funny with different words that I don't even think they understand. But
So
okay.
what time frame is this, like current day?
It's
kind of
current
movie?
day.
Okay.
Well, it starts off in the past and then it cuts to current day.
Okay.
But I don't want to look for this one. We're not going to spoil the whole story just because it's still out in theaters and you should go see it. But you should see it before you listen because that'd be the smart thing to do. But you don't have to. All right, Andrew, let's hear what you have to say.
This movie actually turned out to be a pretty fun time. I thought it would be just like Secret Agent Cody Banks, some garbage movie like that. Fun for kids, but it actually turned out to be a really hard-hitting movie, and it was a fun action movie.
Yeah, I see that it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. You think it's gonna be like you said, Agent Cody Banks. It's like that type deal, similar, very similar, but it's not. It's actually a very violent movie that if you take your kid to, you'll probably regret it.
Would not recommend for small children.
After all, it's directed by Matthew Vaughn, who also directed Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. And
What's it rated?
It's rated R.
Rated R. Okay.
And he's a good director, actually. With Kick-Ass, he took the superhero genre, and made it very, very violent and R-rated, and had kids swearing, and it was a surprise hit that no one saw coming. It really kicked our asses, and we didn't even see it coming.
And he managed to do the same thing with this movie. And
Exactly. I really just... When I first saw the trailer, I didn't think it looked exciting or good, or I wasn't gonna see it. But then it didn't stand out to me. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, wow, I have to see that kind of movie. But I heard it was good. We've seen spy movies like this many, many times, and they've all been forgotten, except for Agent Cody Banks.
Who could forget that one?
The only one we
Unforgettable.
never forget. Okay, but then when more trailers came out, it's kind of like, hey, that doesn't look that bad. And then the reviews came out, and it turned out to be very good. And then I saw it, and I agreed because it's pretty awesome. So, Andrew.
And the movie doesn't take itself too seriously either. It's not trying to be something it's not. It knows it's a good spy movie, good action movie.
Yeah, it's very meta, but in a good way. Not where it's over.
Not obnoxiously meta.
Not obnoxiously meta, which it could have been easily.
They could have overdone it.
They could have easily done with the
they did it great.
dialogue, where it's like, hey, we're in a spy movie, and we know it. But it was handled really well, I thought. And Colin Firth, he kicks a lot of ass. Very much so. And
He almost stole the show, in a way.
Colin Firth, he is a good actor, all right? King's Speech, he won the Oscar for Best Actor because his performance in that was amazing. And then, he did other movies like A Single Man. And I think people forget that he's a good actor because he's in a lot of crap that nobody watches, like straight to DVD stuff. And I don't know why he does that. Probably money, obviously. But then, he's in a movie like this. And he's awesome.
Yeah, he did great. I liked all his performances. He was a really good character.
Like how Kick-Ass had Nicolas Cage, and he was a stand-up performance, and then it was Hit Girl. But this movie, he was this movie's Nicolas Cage. That's what I figured.
Okay, my question is...
And I mean that in a good way.
So, is it like just another kind of like... Is it more like a James Bond kind of like mostly action, or is it more like focused on like the dialogue and the character like interactions?
It's a mix. It balances both action and character very well, because it's really well paced. Actually, the movie itself is like 2 hours long, but I wasn't really feeling the length.
The movie doesn't treat you like you've never seen this before. You know the plot. It sets up the abusive parent, the dead dad.
You know what's gonna happen.
You know what's gonna happen,
But-
and then it's just a fun ride, and
Yeah.
it puts a twist on some spy elements.
They know you've seen this type of movie before, but they basically send up the whole genre to create basically a genre movie, which I really enjoy. I like movies like this, genre movies, basically where it has fun with the idea of spies, but doesn't indulge.
It's not so much what like the spies are
like-
doing; it's more just
Yeah, they know, and they make there's cool gadgets, and it provides everything that you'd expect from a spy movie, without being stupid.
So,
or,
like, what is it? What is it about? Like,
What's- Emma,
I mean, I heard that you said
discussed-
it's about. I mean, a boy who they recruit as a spy, but I mean, like, what's like the mission? What are they like?
Oh yeah. Well,
what's the point?
okay.
of the
There's
movie?
Samuel Jackson plays the bad guy, and he's kind of like a Steve Jobs type person, sort of. But a tech genius, and he's changed the world basically with his technology, and what he wants to do. He has a plan. He invents an SD card or whatever that.
A cell phone card, yeah.
Yeah, unlimited internet and text and everything.
Well, you don't want to spoil it because it's actually pretty
But
mysterious.
there's something malicious behind the whole deal, and you, the viewer, is gonna have to find out by watching the trailer, probably.
Basically, the main character, what's his name? Do you remember?
Eggsy. I
Eggsy,
believe.
yes.
It's a nickname.
When he's a young boy, his father dies. He was a Kingsman. And this isn't a spoiler. This happens in the first 5 minutes of the film. So he dies, and then Eggsy, classic, without a father, mother goes to, what would you call it? She just, poor life choices, abusive stepdad. So he's a rebel. But he's also morally correct.
He's your typical hero character, like where he's the underdog,
Relatable
but
enough.
that's basically how every hero should probably be designed.
I'm
in a
like
way.
picturing this guy as like the Andrew
Like-
Garfield Amazing Spider-Man, kind of lays low, but he has like that potential.
Well, that movie with
I mean, I know it's not
the
like
way it
the
handled Peter
great one to-
Parker. Not
That's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, that's a different
Let's
discussion.
not
That's
get
for a
into
different
this.
time.
We're all differently opinionated about this
but
movie.
he's basically built the way any underdog sort of hero is designed.
And it doesn't waste time exaggerating
but
it
it
because it
doesn't-
knows you've seen it before.
in a
so.
good way. I mean,
And then he gets recruited into the Kingsman program because his father was one. So, who's the
Colin Firth,
Colin Firth's character?
who's awesome. I said that before.
Eggsy's dad saves him
He puts
in
him
the
into
situation, so he feels bad for Eggsy and wants to recruit him to take his father's place.
Yeah. And then he goes through the training, and there's
Yep,
a lot of training, and I like that.
Then we have the movie.
I like
It's
training
Good mix
scenes.
of training without being obnoxiously long, and also carrying on with the main plot. The 2 hours flew by. It did not feel drawn out at all.
And a lot of violence, which was good. Fun violence, a lot of violence. Like, I didn't expect that much violence, but there's a lot of violence in this movie.
Was it realistic violence or was it comedy kind of violence?
No. Well, actually, sometimes it got a little...
To some degree, it's realistic, but there's a scene at the end that's just over the top.
It's over the top,
obnoxiously,
but at the same time...
but in a great way.
There were scenes where it's like the violence is kind of shocking, and then there are other scenes where it's fun.
There's one scene in a church, and
Yeah, the church
I'll
scene
just
with
leave
Colin
it at
Firth,
that. It's
a bit extreme,
kind of nuts.
and it gets a little. It gets a little.
Do not
dark.
take your kids to this movie.
Yeah,
It is not a fun, friendly spy movie for the whole family.
Not like Cody Banks.
It is not Cody Banks 3.
It's no Cody Banks. You hear me?
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. So in the end, I'd say it's a slick film. It's a fun movie, and it's entertaining. And it's violent as hell. And it's Matthew Vaughn, who's actually very good director, as it turns out. And basically, it's kind of like Kick-Ass, but this time they're spies.
It's a very good movie. I'd see it again.
I would see it again. I'd get it on Blu-ray.
Yep.
I'd watch that on Blu-ray.
It's a good film.
If I my rating would probably be a
Worth admission.
7.5 out of 10.
Definitely, easily, maybe an 8.
Close
If you
to an
love
8.
spy movies and just over the top action, it's an 8.
So Emma, I think the real question on all of our minds: would you see this movie?
I would say that I would see it. My grandmother, actually, my 85-year-old grandmother, said it was an awesome movie, and she's not usually like a violence kind of person, and she loved it. So,
Huh?
I mean,
That's a good
it's
sign.
like all ages and groups of people.
I think
so
this
far that
movie
I've
can
heard
bring
that it's
together.
good.
This film can bring together everyone. All right.
If you're over 17 years
just
old,
as long as you're not. Don't just. I mean,
not a children's movie.
maybe your 8-year-old watches movies like this all the time. Don't bring them anyway, because maybe you'll feel awkward, and I don't want you to feel awkward. I want you to enjoy the movie. So that's my final verdict on the movie.
Yeah, good movie.
Good movie. Check it out. Oh, and don't forget to check out the next episode, which will probably be in a week or so. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Mealy.
And I'm Emma Hoyla.
And you'll be excited when you see the next episode come on to the internet.
Yeah.
With your ears. Okay. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.